Okay, by my lights we should be back, and hopefully I'm putting my computer under a little bit less strain. I'm a bit worried in terms of what this means for the stream quality, so as always, if you good people can let me know if there's anything too weird happening on the stream, I'll do my best to meet the balance of one, stopping crashing, but also two, to put on a stream that's actually worth watching. Just gonna wait till I can actually confirm that the looks good so far? Okay, cool. Normally it actually starts automatically playing for me, but I'm not noticing anything. But yeah, as long as it looks fine, I'll trust you guys. And it does look like my okay, cool. Does look like my processor's under a little less strain, so hopefully we don't overload. I mean, I love the fact that this is open source and free software, but it's definitely like I'm paying for it, right? In the sense that it's not working quite the way that I'd like it to. All right, so I'm dithering on about these other companies, but it's a point that I think is important to understanding the Nintendo story. So, you know, you've got your Amazons, you've got your Costcos, you've got your Berkshire Hathaways. These are companies which have sort of built a culture in their investor base, such that you're not going to have to worry about... yeah, I have to rebuild my retinue from nothing. Oh well, okay, I'm gonna go on pilgrimage before I accept this call to arms. I probably went a little too early. Oh well. Now I need to figure out what to do about this vassal problem, actually. What does this count for again? Is it count or higher, or is it duke or higher? Count or higher. I guess I could give him to... I wonder if I can do this. Earl of Telemark. Problem solved. Just went to the toilet. Did you miss anything? Nope. Just me complaining about my computer. It's actually not my computer. It's we won't assign blame. We'll just accept and move on. Building a culture of anti-Semitism in this channel. Yes! Oh boy. So, I'm gonna take a minute to think about my retinue while I talk about this. So... Not quite the figures that I... Oh man, I just bankrupted myself with that retinue. Oh well. I think that Amazon is a cool company. You don't see what is stopping an already existing big box with an established infrastructure from encroaching on their market. Well, I mean, part of that just comes down to... I mean, first of all, Amazon's pricing strategy is pretty vicious. They will accept losses to ensure that they like I believe their practice is to take losses just so long as people keep shopping there, and I think it's because they're building habits, right? If you get in the habit of buying on Amazon, you don't, you're making that long-term investment in the future. I mean, big box retailers also have the problem that they need to pay rent, whereas Amazon can generally keep their operations a bit slimmer anyway. Who likes anti-Semitic Friday casts? Oh my god. How are retinues different from mercenaries? Yeah, borrow and expel is the key to keeping us in the Dark Ages. Retinues are different from mercenaries in the sense that I keep them. Whereas mercenaries, I hire them once and I either keep paying them or they go away when I run out of money. But I definitely had other things I wanted to spend that 1,000 gold on. Yeah. Let's visit a holy site to the west, which is... Oh, not yet conquered by Muslims. Okay. Oh, wow. Ditch those. Let's just make sure everything's nothing's raised, right? Good. And let's visit Jerusalem. Okay. I'm gonna pause for a minute. This is gonna be just a little chat time. I have a feeling I'm gonna get too distracted by the game if I go too far. So you can all admire this map, all this territory that we're going to conquer, and we're going to talk about Nintendo for a little bit. I have heard about shareholder activism, Atticus Ray. I actually think it's... I know some people dislike that behavior. I think Carl Icahn is somebody that people both admire and... despise because of his activism. I will bring this back to Nintendo, but I think it's actually an important point that Maticus Ray has brought up. So there's actually, if you go to Open Yale, Robert Schiller, who's now a Nobel Prize economist, didn't have his Nobel Prize when he did this class. He actually brought Carl Icahn on a satellite call with his class, and Icahn actually explained, at least in his mind, what he was doing and why he thought it was good for America. Now, his view is that a lot of companies are very poorly managed, and that the role of an investor like him is to go in and break that up. To keep it from the friends deciding who becomes the next CEO or what their pay packages are or something like that, and basically get the company running as efficiently as possible. Now, they have land near France because this is a crazy game. Now, I mean... You also have, something kind of like what people associate Bain Capital with, which is, buying up a business, firing all the assistant managers, loading up the company with debt and taking as much as they can out. Like, definitely the idea of these, the kind of predatory behaviors that result in businesses that may have otherwise been viable instead being crippled and not necessarily being able to achieve their fullest potential. I have a bit of a problem with that, but I mean, I don't necessarily think I'm in a place to determine when that's happening and, and when somebody's just sort of behaving in the way that the market's supposed to function. You think that most CEOs are overpaid? It's crazy, really. Yeah. Throw your loved ones into the fires of the engines of industry. Well, Hispania has land in northern Africa because Hispania is a Muslim empire. But yeah, I agree. A lot of CEOs are very well... I need to be careful when I say overpaid because it sort of depends... The one thing that I do know about CEOs, which I didn't when I was starting to look into this stuff, is that the job is a lot harder than what most of the perception of it is. But I will always say I think it's very important that CEOs can justify the value that they brought to the business, because I know a lot of people in business schools, and these are people who are basically just learning how to attach themselves onto an existing company and siphon as much profit as they can off for themselves. And I don't think that's the right way to go about it. But on the point maybe about the shareholders and where I was going with Nintendo for this is, you have the opposite of, a company that has sort of cultivated a particular base of shareholders. And again, it's not like they're making a cult or something like that. It's just that, if Jeff Bezos keeps saying, I'm going to continue reinvesting in the company, and if you are expecting to have, these very high margins anytime soon, you are going to be severely disappointed. There's only so many times that people can hear that and still want to remain invested in the company. The people who are looking for a quick buck are probably not going to be looking at Amazon, although its share price is certainly very healthy, and that the people who sort of are invested in the long-term vision of the company are more likely to be staying around. Glad you like the map, 10-year-old. So how does this relate to Nintendo? I think the thing about Nintendo, which incidentally cannot be bought, it cannot be bought in conventional American markets. So normally you'd go to American Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ or something like that. And you would, you'd buy it. So if you want to buy Berkshire Hathaway, you can go onto your discount broker. You can buy however many shares you want. Same with Amazon or that. The only way you can get shares of Nintendo would be over the counter, the pink sheets. And that's because basically Nintendo's only traded in Japan. Now, if you have access to Japanese markets, fantastic, but most people don't. There should be France and the Holy Roman Empire at this point, yeah. I think sometimes being public can screw up your company, especially in the video game industry. I think Valve wouldn't be half of the company that it is today if it was public. The shareholders would have pushed for Half-Life 3 to have been released 5 years ago, half finished. Yeah, well, that's actually a really good point, Maticus, right? Again, if you think, Activision Blizzard, I don't necessarily think has changed the way Blizzard operates. Now, there are some people who would dispute that. But I would point out that Blizzard seems to be doing some good things. Like, they're doing who would have imagined that Blizzard, the company that makes these big blockbusters every single time they release something, it's an event, would make a free-to-play game. 2 free-to-play games. This is a case where they take engines like Unity and they are taking their very deep pool of development talent and they're making interesting games with them. So going public isn't always bad. But I agree that there seems to be something, once upon a time in the 50s, going public used to be this aspiration of every company. And what you've got now is you've got a lot of private equity and stuff like that. You've got people, like Twitter and Facebook being held with these venture capital firms as long as possible, and then finally going public. And the money that's being made in those IPOs is really for the initial investors in those companies. It's no longer really the shareholders that are getting something. So. Yeah, sorry I've taken a break on the game for a second here, 10-year-old, but I just think I get sidetracked a lot by the game, so we're in a little bit of a chat just because I didn't get that done at the start. I will be playing Crusader Kings 2 again, but I think we'll finish the thought, and then once the main point is done, we'll go back to the game, and that way I won't feel so bad about going off on tangents. But I promised I Smell Like Poo that I was going to talk about this, so. Yeah, I mean, the important thing is you can have both. The thing to remember about indie stuff, right, is if you think about motion pictures, all of the independent films that people are familiar with, Kevin Smith, like his first movie Clerks, and, Quentin Tarantino's stuff. Like, a lot of this is due to the financing that was given, either the purchase after the fact, or the initial financing given by Miramax, which was bought by and became a Disney company. Now you can say, well, then they started making stuff like Shakespeare in Love and more traditional fare, and maybe that's fair, right? But I think the big thing is that as long as there were some deep pockets that were able to buy up the indies after the fact, independent filmmakers felt like they were able to create something and get a return for it. I think there needs to be both sides to that kind of a market, right? Because it's really cool to be able to say, I'm going to go out there and make this really awesome game. But generally, like, if you want to make the game that you have in your head, you're going to need to hire people to give you some really good looking art assets. Or maybe you're an artist, but you're not that good at programming, so you're going to need to hire a programmer or something like that. So, the fact that there is an entity that has money and is willing to buy up these, so the indie takes the chance, and if it's a good game, a studio can pick it up and distribute it, like what happened with Chucklefish and Risk of Rain, which was by a couple of college students. I think that's actually a healthy thing to have, because in this case, the people are getting compensated for the work that they're doing, but there's a system that's permitting them to actually take that creative leap. Now, I think the irony of this is that if you take a look at the true indie stuff, like the stuff that's being kickstarted, a lot of it is really derivative. Like, how many more pixel art roguelike zombie crafting games do we really need? But then you have established developers like Harebrained Schemes making the Shadowrun games, which are fantastic. But these are people who already have a company that is up and running. It's not a public company, but this is definitely a group of people who are very well established in their industry. So it's hard to soapbox or chase rabbits around when you're worrying about maintaining an app. So, yes, there is a revolt in Aquitaine right now. Better than the Game of Thrones comedy, am I right? Yeah. But yeah, so I am definitely not going to be one of those people who jump on the train that says stuff from established studios is bad. I think at established studios you do have people who have a lot of experience making games, and if they are given the tools to, to get if they are given an environment in which they are given the resources they need to make the game well, they're going to make some impressive stuff. I would take Sid Meier as an example of this, because Sid Meier sold Firaxis to 2K. He has stated many times that he's very happy with the relationship that he has with 2K. 2K handles the money stuff. He worries about making the best games that he can. Not all of the games always turn out the way that everybody would like them to be, but I'd say Sid Meier has got a pretty fantastic track record when it comes to doing things. Redivand, how's it going? We're taking a small break because I smell like Pooh wanted to hear about the Nintendo share spike, and I've talked about anything but Nintendo this whole time. Art and securitization do not mix. Prior to the blockbuster era in Hollywood, it had a golden era. Think about movies like Apocalypse Now, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, etc. Same with crowdsourcing junk. The best art is controversial and neat. I agree completely, Maticus Ray, but I would encourage you to read the book Easy Riders, Raging Bulls by Peter Biskind, because the important thing to remember about the the 70s, the other golden age of Hollywood, of course, would be the 50s under studios such as Warner Brothers and that. But let's take the 70s, because there's some fantastic films that were made out of it, and I agree with you. But it's also important to remember that it was the studios that took a chance because people stopped going to the movies, and they gave a bunch of money to people who went into college to escape the Vietnam War. And you got, Easy Rider, you got Apocalypse Now, Star Wars eventually. Star Wars is kind of the beginning of the end of that, because then they started focusing a little bit more commercial material. But the important thing to remember is that as long as there is some, I think there are some this is something that actually interests me from a research perspective. I'm really interested in creative industries because I think the idea of a movie studio, whether they succeed or not, but the idea of a business that says that they've got something as nebulous as creativity down to the point that they can bring in some degree of profit, like, you know, reliable profit enough to be a public company, interests me, right? Like Disney is fairly good at meeting its earnings per share, and they have ESPN and Miramax and all this, you know, they've got a very diverse business model, but they, you know, they are still a creative company, right? Not everything that they make is to everybody's tastes, but, you know, Pixar still does a pretty good job of making movies that are about stuff and really good. Yeah, every time I say it, yeah, I know. In before Sisters choose Call of Duty next. That is never going to happen. Speaking of which, derivative games bring in that cash like crazy. Yeah. It's rough. You need unique games for fun, but you need derivative games for cash. Well, I mean, you'll have stuff that breaks the mold and does it very well. And I mean, the thing that I like is, more importantly for me, is that the cost of games is getting smaller. So whether it's Blizzard using Unity to lower its costs to make Hearthstone, and now we have a free-to-play card game, which is really fun to play, or it's some college kid in his basement that's going to be making the game that he's always wanted but nobody's ever made. I'm happy in both cases because honestly, I'm always looking for more stuff to entertain me. I don't necessarily care about where it comes from. Now, I definitely agree, and it's a point that Manicus Ray has been making, that there is definitely a set of incentives in large companies. And this is actually, Kenneth Arrow talked about this in innovation in general, not in creative fields, but I think it applies as well, that there is an argument that he made that it is always going to be the entrant that disrupts the established firm because the incentives of the established firm aren't the same. The established firm is never going to innovate, and it's the incumbent's never going to innovate. It's always going to be some startup that does it. Now, there's other economists who have done other conclusions, even in spite. I mean, Arrow is a very impressive economist, still alive and still razor sharp. But it's definitely a very provocative thing that he said, and it's one that does, you know, it has some truth to it. I don't buy it entirely. But his reasoning's good. It would just be that you can say it's an oversimplified view. Derivative games are necessary. You'll never see Call of Duty here. High praise. Pixar makes movies that are about stuff. No, but you know what I mean when I say they're about. Like, they tell you something about what it is to be human, right? Toy Story, you know, everybody's always, you know, every kid has had that imagination that the toys come alive when the lights are out. Toy Story put that on the screen, and everybody who's ever forgotten how to feel that, you know, how to feel that way about toys watched that. The parents watched that, the kids watched it, and everybody knew what that felt like again. That's what I mean when they say they're movies about stuff, as opposed to, I don't know, I've probably got some crap on my wall here somewhere. Okay, I'm actually having a really hard time. I've got like, I'm looking over here, I've got like Chinatown and Fight Club, and like, these are actually all pretty good movies. I don't know, okay, I'm sorry, I haven't seen Transformers other than the first one, but like, Transformers, I'm willing to say, probably does not tell you. It is a movie about the latest CGI technology. You wish Rockstar would license its cities. Imagine indie devs using Liberty Cities and Los Santos for that's actually a really good idea. I see I smell like poo already beat you to it, or beat me to saying that. But no, that's actually that's really interesting. But yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say on this one is that as much as I want to be like the 100% indie guy, if I'm honest about what I've seen and what I've enjoyed, I believe that both systems are capable of creating very good work. And I believe that both systems are capable of creating actually really terrible work. And I think the matter is just making sure that you put the projects that benefit from one paradigm or another in the right group. So indie games should stop trying to be AAA titles, and AAA titles should maybe just accept that there is a certain expectation on them. So I only have amazing movies stock 2015. It's really hard to find anything short of excellent in my library. Yeah, Transformers teaches that people need to stop beating a dead horse. I don't know if it's just you getting older and getting more boring, but I'm finding that FPS and most mainstream games, aside from the occasional jewel in the rough, Bioshock Infinite, keeps you interested through story and art. I'm finding smaller, more artistic or casual games seem more interesting anymore. My mommy took me to watch Transformers, and they were so cool. Well, no, I mean, I just think the fact, like, if you think about it, like, what did indie game development mean 10 years ago, right? The kind of environment that people are operating in now is very different. I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times on stream already, but the fact that the Unreal Engine and the Unity engine now are free for all intents and purposes is pretty unprecedented. I mean, the best that you could do would be a mod. And even now, like, if you think about mods, right, Counter-Strike is a big piece of IP for Valve. So, that run on Hanging Claws, sorry. Yeah. So I think, you know, you're getting this really, I mean, the fact of the matter is that a lot of people have an idea that, I think a lot of people have some very good ideas for games which have not had the opportunity to be realized because the previous methods were too costly, so you wouldn't necessarily get a return on the investment, or it would be unaffordable to the individual undertaking it. But now we have these games which can appeal to niche audiences. And that's a really good thing. It's the thing that I like, because all of a sudden lowering the cost of game development does not necessarily mean that every game has to be a blockbuster. It means that you can actually make this really, really weird game, still possibly make it worth your while. And, you know, maybe there's only going to be like 500 people that ever play the thing. But the 500 people are really dedicated and they really want to see the next thing that you make. Like, think about Nidhogg, right? Nidhogg was a big hit, but if you look at the other stuff that this guy's done, it's pretty arcane. So Blizzard didn't learn that lesson. Dota was Warcraft 3 mod, so they should have capitalized on. Yeah, well, I mean, and Blizzard maybe just didn't appreciate what they had on hand. I think what I'm going to do here, so I can at least pretend that I'm making progress, I'm going to put it on slow speed. I will still talk about Nintendo, but we're on an interesting train of thought, so I'll move on. I mean, and this is the big thing, right? Like, the one thing to remember about indie game studios is that you usually don't hear about their screw-ups because the studio vanishes and they never release their game. Still waiting for Blizzard to really flop on anything. Well, I mean, I'm not entirely sure. Like, Diablo 3 was a very successful game, but I'm not entirely sure people were that thrilled about it when it finally came out. Nidhogg was that weird dueling sim, right? That is absolutely right. You've never happily wasted so much time. Yeah, I'm trying to get my friend Alex to come on stream and do some Nidhogg. I mean, the problem is like, with the internet problems and the fact that, like, multiplayer on that game sucks so much online, it's a really hard case to make to get somebody to play that. Okay, that's good to know. Like, I never played it, right? Like, the Diablo series is cool, but I tend to find that I get quite tired of games like those. So, like, I have Torchlight, which I think is fun, but I wouldn't really want to spend, like, full retail price on Diablo 3. Why do Hungry have land in space? 10-year-old, it's always going to be the same answer. It's just the way this game works, man. Oh, more war, why not? Okay, I really will talk. I'm really happy to talk about game development because this is actually a subject that fascinates me. But I'll get back onto Nintendo just because I think I've really Diablo series is cool. All right, you know what? Every time I give a proper review of something, I'm gonna have to like sit down and polish every word. If you guys are gonna call me out every time I try to say something simple. Diablo 2 is great. You're very disappointed with D3 initially, and then they came out with updates, and they're very in the black now. About to head to bed. It's refreshing to hear a streamer that's intelligent as you. Oh, thank you so much, Medicus Ray. If you want to hang out, I'll do my best to at least put a capstone on the Nintendo thing. Although I don't necessarily think I'm going to say anything that you don't already know. But if you're off before I get a chance to say it, it was awesome to have you in stream. It's actually nice to have people interacting that have their own opinions on these things as well. Like, I know some people really like to avoid confrontation, and I need to be conscious of that on as a streamer. But I actually like it when people come in with different views on things because, I mean, it gives me a chance to justify my own positions, and I'm usually wrong about stuff. But I like the opportunity to think about somebody else's perspective on a given issue. I think it's boring when everybody thinks the same thing. So it's one of the smartest on. I don't know about that. It's not going to stop me from harassing him every 5 minutes, though. Yeah, I mean, for crying out loud, I'm the biggest kappa of them all when it's seriously Clara's chat. But, okay, the Nintendo announcement. I'm really going to get onto this. So let's talk about... I talked about shareholder culture. So what's the kind of culture that Nintendo's made for itself? Well, I'm not entirely sure it's just a question of, they've really kind of bowed to these, very pressuring shareholders. But I think Nintendo has viewed itself as being like Apple for a very long time. You're intrigued to hear about Nintendo. You haven't been keeping up with gaming news because you're overloaded with school. Yeah, I'm overloaded with school too. Almost done though. Best of luck to you, Maticus. Right. Although my stress right now is I've narrowed grad schools down to 3. I still need to figure out which one I'm going to. For the past 14 years, one of your kinsmen, the Church of Zunman, has been trying to take over the Tengri Holy Order. Weirdest turn of events. Nick Laura, let me know when you start streaming again. Crusader Kings, at least. Maybe he's actually really dumb, doubtful, and he's just making us think he's smart by lulling us into agreement with that sonorous voice. My god, Endors. This is why I don't have a cam. You're making me blush. But yeah, so I think the best way that I could articulate Nintendo... So the thing about Nintendo was I suspect there were a lot of people who invested in that company when the Wii came out. Because if you think about it, right, like no... I'll actually maybe preface this first by saying that I'm not much of a console gamer. It's not that I dislike consoles, but like a computer I can use for school. I can use it for programming. I can use it for a lot of different things. I can use it for web browsing. A console I can't make that argument for. However, when I have owned a console, it has always been a Nintendo console. I have literally never owned any other kind of console in my life. So it's like a Nintendo DS, I've got a Wii. I've played other consoles, like at friends' houses and things like that. But you're in grad school, it's worse than your undergrad by far. May I ask what you're studying, Maticus Ray? I'll keep talking while you answer, but I'd love to know what you're up to. So, like, think about the Wii. That was real. Like, Nintendo was on fire for that because we went from, having a very standard idea about what a console was, and it was sort of, Microsoft and Sony would be fight. Oh, you're in law school. Awesome. Good for you. I've got one friend who's also at UBC with me right now who's in law school. And then a good friend of mine became interested in politics, and she went out to Ontario to go to law school. So it's something I sort of considered because when I talk to people on campus, they'd usually say, you'd be a good lawyer. I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to make of that. But in my case, I decided to go with what I knew and what I was doing well with. So it was economics for me. Although one of the schools I'm considering does have a joint JD econ program, but I should focus on one or the other. I know Greg Mankiw started off in law and transferred to economics, but I'm not entirely sure I could do that. But yeah, I mean, everything I've heard about law is that it is exhausting and it's very difficult, so my heart goes out to you. Yeah, well, I mean, Maticus, Richard Posner. That name sounds so familiar, but I'm not making the connection. I'll write that down. I'll check it out. One of the one of the subjects that I found most interesting in my undergrad was the economics of intellectual property. So I did quite a bit on patents. Now, again, I'm interested in creative industries myself, so that would also include copyright. So the connection between law and intellectual property rights, obviously there's a very big overlap there. So that was a point where I was able to kind of combine those two interests. Appellate judge, studied law and economics. He's a genius. That's where I know him from. Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually surprised. There's a lot. There's more people who do that than I would have thought. So, although again, when you think about it, like one of the things that a lot of economists are going to talk about is the importance of property rights in terms of creating the right institutions and achieving human flourishing. But I got sidetracked again. Nintendo. So I think, I suspect there's probably a lot of shareholders who jumped in Nintendo when they brought in the Wii, because we went from like Microsoft and Sony sort of fighting each other for, the graphics dominance. And what's Nintendo going to do? Well, Nintendo always makes really good games, so people are always going to buy their console, but people buy them because you just can't get, like, Nintendo is the constant manufacturer of killer apps, right? People will go and they will buy their console so they can play the next Zelda game, so they can play the next Mario Kart, so they can play Smash, any of this stuff. And it's one of the reasons why I don't do consoles that much, because I find it costly. And I really don't like the idea, like, I'm always going to look at one console and it's like, oh, I really wish I could play Bayonetta, or, oh, I really wish I could play Gears of War, or, oh, you know what, well, they're both so good looking, but I actually really want to play Mario again. So I've got my Wii and that's about it. Half an hour later, Raiders still approaching. In property class, we talked about the benefits of privatization and how it reduced the cost of negotiating externalities. You would have loved it. Yeah. You bought a $400 Smash machine. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some people will call it a Wii U. See, this is what Nintendo's great at. So, the Wii was fantastic because not only did it create a new type of gaming that, people hadn't expected before, right? Those controllers were a really big deal. And if you think, like, look at what Sony was trying to do. They made their 6-axis controller, which wasn't really that good. At least at the start. I mean, again, I haven't touched it that much. It was the console that, like, finally everybody's parents started playing. Like, I can remember a Christmas when the Wii U came out. I was at a friend's house for Christmas dinner. And her parent, like, she's older than me, and her parents are, one of them recently retired. They're older. And they were playing Wii U boxing, and it was the most amazing thing I have ever seen. Just, like, they were into it more than we get into, like, FPSs and stuff like that. It was ridiculous. So, Nintendo really did something impressive with that. And then if you think about how they followed that up, right? They said, it's like, we're going to make a DS, and it's going to have 3D, and you're not going to need 3D glasses for it, right? This is the time everybody's talking about how amazing 3D is. That must have been close to the time that Avatar had come out as well. Yeah, exactly, Nicolor. Yes, she. Consoles fighting for graphical dominance is hilarious. It's like children fighting over how the cooler bike when the rest of us can choose to drive an automobile. When I go visit my grandma out of state, she always makes me Wii Bowl with her. Yeah, I mean, this is wonderful stuff. And I mean, I like it too, right? Like, I like the fact that the iPhone, like, it's no longer a question about me having a nerdy video gaming hobby. Instead, I now have a nerdy video gaming hobby of broadcasting to people me playing video games or talking over video games in this particular case. You know, the 3DS, they're like, oh man, Nintendo's gonna kill it with 3DS. And not a lot of people bought it. It was a big disappointment. And then, you know, the Wii starts getting a little bit long in the tooth, and they can't quite do the innovation that everybody was expecting, and the share price crashes. And then they cut their dividend. Basically, the sales aren't there. They're not selling what they need to. But they're still making games that people really, really want to play, and they're buying consoles so they can play those specific games. Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. I smell like Boo. I think, like, I heard that they were making the Wii U, and I was like, okay, you know, I still have stuff I want to play on my Wii. I love watching films with graphics that give you headaches. Best innovation ever. Yeah. So, you know, whether or not those shareholders stuck around afterwards is a whole other question. But, like, Nintendo has had this model for a very long time where they're sort of like Apple, right? They make the hardware, they make the, you know, the best software that they can for it, they make the thing that everybody wants. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, it's the thing that's kept me from buying consoles. Like, and I think this might actually be a deliberate move. Like, you are noticing that the next generation of consoles has been fairly expensive when you compare it to the others. I do believe that to a certain extent Microsoft and Sony are actually trying to you know, raise that cost a little bit so you actually have to pick which one you love the most. And I think Nintendo loses that fight. I know Nintendo is trying to improve their graphics quality and things like that, but most people really don't. Like, people consider it as the Xbox, the PlayStation, and then if you really like Nintendo stuff, you get a separate Nintendo to play the Nintendo games. You think Nintendo won't get back to its former glory on their Wii? Casual gamers are playing on mobile phone games instead. Yes, your wife, who would have once played Wii Sports, now plays Candy Crush instead. I agree. Nintendo could continue hemorrhaging money for the next 30 years and still be fine. Stockholders might be a tad upset. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it did that, the best thing it could do would be to go private. But I don't think that's actually going to be what happens to them. Nintendo should make mobile games to stay alive, which brings us to the announcement. So, why did Nintendo's share price suddenly jump up? For the longest time, Nintendo has insisted that they are going to continue making hardware, and they are going to continue to leverage their intellectual property specifically for their platform, right? Now, it's worked for Apple. Maybe it works for Nintendo as well. It hasn't been working so far, so maybe it's a Sony story instead, where, you know, Sony used to have the Walkman, they used to be the Apple of the 80s, and now they're not the Apple. So shareholders have been pressuring them for a very, very long time, saying it's like, you need to publish these games on these other platforms, you know, because when you think about it, right, like, I've got a laptop bag which has Mario on it. Every time I pull out my laptop, everybody comments on that Mario bag, and they always say how much they like that bag. I think the most neutral expression I've gotten was my game theory instructor, who looked at my bag and said, that's a very unique bag. And I think that's the only, like at that point, that's still somebody commenting on the bag. It's just they're not saying, I really love Mario. I think that's the worst reaction I've gotten to the bag. So that was a gift from, I'm going to scandalize 10-year-old again, a friend who was a she. A different friend who was a she. She's Russian. But like, I'd say, I know I've talked about Disney before, but like, Nintendo really is the Disney of the gaming industry, right? I know that Microsoft has Halo. I mean, Microsoft, when they made the Xbox, they bought a whole bunch of developers. Bungie used to be a Mac-only developer, for crying out loud. They made a game called Marathon, which was basically a Mac-only first-person shooter. Now, I don't even think you can get Halo on the Mac. I know the first one I think you could do on Mac. I don't know about any of the other ones. Dr. Mario to compete with Candy Crush. Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know what extent they're going to go with that. But yeah, so shareholders is, I mean, again, like Nintendo, like as far as I'm concerned, take any of the best IP that the other platforms have, right? You got God of War on you've got God of War on the PlayStation, you've got Gears of War on the Xbox. You can pick any of their killer apps, and it is just simply not going to have the sheer star power, if you'll pardon the corny joke, of the Mario franchise, right? Or Metroid, or Zelda. Like, this is stuff that taps into the deepest subconscious of gamers. I mean, you have people claiming a love for Zelda and Triforces who barely even know anything about those games. But the Triforce has just become this big cultural icon that everybody wants to be associated with. And by the way, I'm gonna like completely shred any nerd cred that I have. I have only ever played one Zelda game. It's not because I don't like it. It's just because I've never gotten around to it. So what what these investors have been wanting, it's like, Nintendo is obviously very, very successful at making high quality games. I mean, again, like, think about what it takes to make people want to buy a whole separate console to play your game. And they do that pretty consistently, right? Nintendo makes some really, really fantastic software. So shareholders want to see the dollars. Software is a high margin item. Hardware is a low margin item. And Nintendo's not been doing a very good job of selling it. No, you go play Zelda right now. Yeah, I don't know if Gears of War is still a thing. I played it's a black and white Game Boy one. I lost a viewer as soon as the Zelda thing came up. Maybe it's because I haven't been playing. I will click a button. Praise the Blessed Virgin, a most welcome escort. I'm losing money. I may need to borrow money. It's probably my retinue that's costing me that. Well, we'll draw it out. We'll see how long we can go. Yeah, so as a black and white Game Boy one, Link is on a dream. It's like a dream world that he's in. There's like some fish that he needs to wake up. And yeah, you can see it made a really big... I really enjoyed it. But what... Yeah, exactly. Atticus Ray. I think it's called like Link's Awakening or something like that. It's a really good one. Like, I really liked playing it, but yeah, it was just, that was what I had available to play. So yeah, Link's Awakening. I will gain sympathy for... No, you know what? I'm close to Muslims, so I will say Muhammad was a great thinker. Too much puzzle for you when you played it? Yeah. I don't know. It was the first time I really played a game like that. So, I mean, I was really curious what people were talking about. So I had the opportunity to play it, so I took it. How could you, Endors? Hooray! I'm back to the proper size of things. So, anyways, I think you get this point about the dilemma that Nintendo's been faced with, right? They're not making I mean, again, they had to cancel their dividends, so that's less money coming into the pockets of the shareholders, literally. Their sales numbers aren't what they should be, and people are clamoring for change. Now, Nintendo's been very, very stubborn about this. It's like, we've got the... Really? Awakening's the worst? I'm gonna have to play another Zelda game then. I don't know. If you guys want to recommend a Zelda game for me to play, I'd be really happy to give the series a try again. Again, it's not that I haven't played them because I'm not interested in them. It's just I've never gotten to it, right? So that's the only thing that's going on with that. To be fair, you got stuck in the Great Deku Tree when you tried to play Ocarina of Time. Didn't think to shoot the eyeballs above the doors to open them. That will mean something to me when I play Ocarina of Time. But yeah, so I mean I guess the big thing is that when the Wii was converting non-gamers into gamers, they were able to say that model works. The money's not coming in anymore, right? The 3DS wasn't as successful. The Wii U isn't selling the way that it should. And shareholders are running out of patience. And the CEO is definitely feeling the pressure. So you're going to bed for real this time. I think this should start a YouTube series where you talk about the business of game companies, people who talk about the business of the game industry. They're making this new IP, blah, blah, blah. They don't get into the nitty-gritty of the industry like you can. I'll wait to hear your response to this idea. Yeah, Maticus, I think that's a really interesting idea. I don't quite know how to handle the YouTube equation yet. Because I think CPO Williams had also talked about a couple of things that I could do maybe it was I Smell Like Poo. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting who suggested. It's one of you two. I just can't remember which of the two. You'd also suggested a YouTube series, and I'm always concerned about starting those because I'm really worried that I'll have like 1 or 2 episodes and then I'll run out of stuff to say. But I think you raise a good point, Maticus Ray, and I need to think about a way that I can do it that I would be able to sustain myself through it. But the reason why the share price has gone up is that Nintendo announced that they're having a partner with, I think it's called DeNA. Like it's looks like DNA, but it's like DEANA or something like that. And they are now committed to making mobile titles. So you are now going to see... Now, this is the important thing. It's not going to be the new Mario game gets released on the Wii U and another platform. It's that Nintendo is now expanding out into this other platform as another revenue stream, and they are going to leverage some of their IP to do that. So that would maybe mean that there is a separate Mario game that you can now play on your smartphone or something like that. Nobody really knows what the title's going to be. Now, some business news is also reporting that they said they've announced, they're already starting the next generation of consoles off. They've announced this new platform called the NX, but I honestly don't believe that the share price is rising because they announced another piece of hardware. It's because Nintendo has been so intransigent about this idea of always writing software for their own hardware that the shareholders have been really pushing them to release some of that IP onto some other platforms to bring in that high margin software money. And what they're doing now is they've sort of relaxed their grip a little bit. Now, if you see the share price continuing to rise, what I suspect that means is that shareholders are getting overly optimistic about whether or not Nintendo will start releasing their IP on stuff like PlayStations. I don't actually think that's going to be happening. But I do, honestly, Nintendo has some very good developers working for them. And I think as long as I think if anybody's going to bring some innovation to the mobile market and be able to make that revenue, if you think about it, right, Square Enix has done a fairly good job for themselves of making some, if you go to the App Store, their games are generally more expensive than everything else, but people are still buying them, right? They'll still buy Final Fantasy to play it on a phone. So in the end, the reason why Nintendo's share price has been going up is, again, when you think about those cultures for investors, these investors have been pushing to say, you have a way of making money, and it's not about selling games on these consoles you keep making. Nintendo has always said the games and the consoles are one thing, and that's what we're going to keep doing, and they have finally changed. and the shareholders saying, yes, they are now taking the method that we said to make more money. Clearly we're right, and so we expect big things for this company in the future. And in general, I think it's an area in which Nintendo can potentially do quite well for themselves. But I do still think they would do a good job of kind of have this very clear delineation between what is kind of a canonical Nintendo product, so, you know, the next Smash on whatever, you know, the NX or whatever this thing turns out to be. And then it just happens to be that, you know, Mario makes an appearance in this smartphone game. Because I think if they start kind of muddying those waters a little bit, like, can you really imagine playing Smash on a PlayStation? It doesn't quite seem right to me. So. Yeah, so in the end, Maticus Ray and I smell well everybody. I think what people are mostly looking at is the success that Square has had with the mobile platform. They're seeing that Nintendo is now open to new ideas, and that this stagnation that they've had by being too married to hardware is possibly over. And as a result, that is my explanation in terms of why their share price has risen recently. And now I'm going to full speed in this game. By the way, you guys are really patient for listening through all of that, because I know there was not a lot of it. I really should have switched this to gaming talk shows instead, but you guys are very good to me. Oh my god, Riddivan, you're still here! I feel so embarrassed. Yeah, I'm not too sad to see Aquitaine at war. Yeah, not a problem, Medicus Ray. Thanks for hanging out so long. I know I'm extremely long-winded on this stuff, so you've got some fortitude, my friend. Yeah, I mean, it really sucks that I blew my treasury and that I wasted my retinue, because this would have been a really good opportunity to start taking some territory. I have a feeling I might actually wind up losing. I might actually wind up losing my kingdom, the Kingdom of Sweden. Liege, I write to you with bad news from Westmoreland. My efforts to squeeze some extra taxes out of the population have met with resistance, and the peasants are arming themselves. I fear we might have a revolt on our hands soon. Let them come. Would pay. You come to listen to the system chat. Awesome. I don't think I'm ever gonna disappoint you on the chat front. Just the crash front. Red Pain, I'm not just not happy with how Final Fantasy is this day and age. I love the turn-based RPGs, and nowadays it's hard to find one. And I'll be honest, I never play. Yeah, okay. Now everybody's just gonna riot. So I actually haven't played that much Final Fantasy either. But I know what you're talking about. Like, I remember, like, I had a very clear idea of, you know, like playing Final Fantasy V on an emulator. I'm pretty sure it was 5. And, like, having a very clear idea of what I thought a Final Fantasy game was, and then I watched, and it's like a pseudo-science fiction, kind of fantasy, kind of everything sort of game. And, I mean, they look very beautiful. It's not a slight against those types of games, but it's something very different from what I normally associate with that series. Now, between systems in Elite Dangerous, doing some exploration, lots of time on your hands. I recommend Spirit Engine 2 if I haven't played it. It's not strictly classic turn-based RPG, but a nice twist on one. Well, that's one thing I really like too. Is I think people are wanting to go back to some of these core concepts that they really loved, and they're bringing them back. I think when I look at something like I was watching somebody playing Wanderlust Adventures, and it sort of seems to be that they're trying to recapture something that they feel is missing from the current landscape. Played a game as Venice. All you did was build towns and take islands and ended up getting more money than the Byzantines. Yeah, I love playing Merchant Republics. I'm not very good at them, but I know the next game that I start is going to be a Merchant Republic for sure. How's my opinion doing? Oh, nice. So I don't need to worry about the consequences for my bad behavior anymore. I really need to start working on this Sweden situation, though. So, what's keeping me from... Oh, well, I'm not at peace, and no vassal count or above has a negative opinion of me. Oh, but that's Britannia. Cool. Okay, so once these wars are over, I can convert this to seniority. And I'm good. Oh, fair enough, yeah. I'm always looking for a new game. They're always... Eyes of Magial last night. I was having some fun with it. You know, Red Pain, so, let me bring this, Oh, cool, he's in chat. So I'm going to draw your attention to a good friend of this channel. So this good gentleman was actually playing that the other night. So if you haven't checked him out before, I definitely recommend clicking that link and giving him a follow. He's a good guy. He actually gave me a copy of Divinity Original Sin in the great gift-giving stream of 2 streams ago. But no, it's in addition to the fact that he gave such a generous gift, he is a lot of fun to watch and actually plays that game, so I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I do. They never revolt. It's easy to collect it too. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing I love the most about the Merchant Republic is using state funds to build up my mansion. Oh, I know what I'm gonna do. So the next playthrough, and I mean, we're a long way off from that. But oops. Does Duke Offra still hate me? Or am I about to kill somebody who... Oops. My co-conspirator, Mayor Elfwine, has procured a poisonous viper and sends word that it will soon dig its fans into Prince Offa. Just don't point that thing at me. Let's cancel that plot. Yeah, I'm actually going to be playing Divinity with Yip, who I think is probably streaming right now as well. You're off to sleep and try anyway. Thank you so much for stopping by, Nicolor. It's a lot of fun having you in chat. Thank you for the follow. And we will hopefully see you again soon. Good luck with your own game. It was actually a lot of fun to hear about what was going through your own game. So but yeah, so I think like we're a long way away from... Oh god, I'm still converting people. That's cool and all, but we've got better things that we can do with that chaplain. go research tech. Can I appoint any successors yet? Nope. Have I looked in the Game of Thrones mod for this game? I'm really interested in it, but I understand that I would need to downgrade the version that I have to be able to run it. So it's something I'd like to do, but it seems a little complicated for me to... Like, I'd want to finish up this game and like what I was working on first before I gave it a try. I think it's a brilliant idea though, and I watched somebody play it on YouTube, and it looks like they've put a lot of very good effort into making that a really good mod, so I'm really looking forward to trying it out. I just really wish that they'd make it compatible with oh nice, we're gonna kill some more Vikings soon, I think. I just kind of wish it was compatible with the version that I'm currently running. Yeah, no Germany. Well, I don't know. You know, there's these huge revolts that come out, but a lot of the time they do seem to manage them, even though they're fairly sizable. I'm a little more worried about the Aquitanian... Oh, wow, 2 Aquitanian revolts. Alexandra of Macedon has died in 4 health. My wife. Alright, well, I don't want to have a son anyway, so... Let's get married. Game of Thrones equals seppuku. What mod? Swenth, we were talking about the Game of Thrones mod. Game of Thrones mod for Crusader Kings. They've done their best to model Westeros and its inhabitants to allow you to live out the fantasies of the of George Martin. So as always, we're looking for 16 years old and lustful, but we usually can't find it. Chaste? Who wants a chaste wife? Jesus Christ. Homosexual wife? Nope. 28-year-old lustful? Not good enough. So hard to find a wife. Italian might be helpful, but she's ugly, so... Oh, and 32. Probably won't... Oh yeah, Red Pain, go nuts. You don't need any permission to post links here. Thank you for asking, though. I know that's normally a big deal in channels, but go crazy. Oh god, I don't even know what I'm looking for anymore. Let's just go for Carling. Any lustful Carlings? Can go Greek again. Oh, 17, good martial, not so good diplomacy, okay steward. Ooh, devil possessed. Oh, but 32, never mind. These are all babies. Nah. Okay. 9 stewardship it is. Unless... Yeah, I think that's the best we're gonna get. So, not quite the prestige I was looking for, but as long as it's a positive number, I'm okay with that. Just hear something about converting. Nice. The last update was in February. Oh, it sounds like it's more recently updated than I thought. I'm just going to take a quick look at this myself. What patch is this? There used to be a way that you could find... Oh, you know what? It's probably in the main screen, so... I don't really want to go... I don't want to leave the game just to find out what version I'm running. Looks like I'm on 2.3.3, so it's still out of sync. Getting closer, though. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to giving that a try. Let's speed this up so I can get some... Fulfilled the ambition to get married. Imagine that. Now give me a son, damn it! Oh, but I'm still over the limit, damn it. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, this is actually a nice opportunity to rebuild my treasury. I'm just going to sit on my ass and wait for these wars to finish so I can change the succession laws, and then we'll start ruining the rest of the world. Alright, next thing I want to think about is what I get for upgrading... Okay, so don't need barracks or militia training grounds. I don't invest in churches. Keeps doesn't give me anything that I really want. I think construction's the way to go. Yeah, construction is going to be most directly applicable to what I'm currently trying to do. Let's finish off the retinue as well. It's just one less cost to worry about. I've got 1,000 on everything, so let's add some more horsies. So Redivin, the image looks really familiar, but I don't recall the game. Word stood against word, the farmers against the courtiers, about damage caused to the farmer's house by a cow owned by the courtier. The farmer should be compensated. Empress Irmgard was not happy with my decision. Well, you know what? You are a wife in the Middle Ages. You know what that means? Off with her head. No. By the way, the guy who got his ass kicked by the raider is apparently called the Wise. Okay, what the hell is going on with this steward? Do a better job than the last guy. My spymaster's in Norfolk, but I don't think there are any plots in Norfolk still. Nope, maybe there is. Okay, fair enough. He's just not doing his job. No killing your wives, Jock. You need the babies. Yeah, I'm gonna have my first female ruler in a little bit. See, normally at this point I would be holding a tournament, but I'm too poor for it, so... No hostages to ransom. It's a disaster. Let's just take a minute to end some plots. What I am, like, again, the whole plan right now is just to sit and wait for the wars to finish. And then I can ensure that I hang on to the Kingdom of Sweden. Although I am at my vassal limit, so I think what might be an idea is to... That's a good question, actually. So do I hang on to the Kingdom of Sweden and just accept that I'm going to have a really large domain or too many vassals for a period of time while I conquer their area and then just hand that title over to somebody else? Or do I conquer lands on their behalf? I'll have to think about that. Fate smiles upon me and my wife... Irmgard. Irmgard is pregnant. The House of Rose will never be the same. Female ruler. Shudder. Not if this babby turns out the way I want it to. That game earlier was from Age of Empires 2. Oh, okay, so my friend at the Paris School of Economics, Sophie, who does occasionally stop by this channel, really likes Age of Empires. So there is a hope that one day we will get a chance to play together, and that seems like a really good opportunity to stream. I haven't actually played... I've played an Age of Empires game. I think it was the third one, not the second. And I did play Age of Mythology. Oh wow, he's really working Opera. Let's stop that. Let's instead steal lands from people. Actually, first of all, what's her military? Ha! I'm not worried about that. Play together, that sounds serious. This is somebody I met in my econ department. The Khan of Khans, my liege, vague rumors of the all-conquering menace have reached us from the Far East. It seems that a great Khan has united all the tribes of the vast steppes, leading millions of fierce horse warriors against the great cities of Cathay. In time, the new Khagan will pose a threat to the civilized world. A fine tale. This is why I like conquering the Far West. What am I gonna do? I think working Sweden is probably the way to handle this. I need a boat to move my retinue. Or you know what? I can actually move them over now. Met is such a crude term. Hello, we've got... Looks like we've got trouble in the Muslim world. Why can't I declare war? Why do I need a casus belli? He's a heathen. Alright, well, we're gonna go punch some Vikings. Steve is. I'm never gonna get tired. Yeah. Okay. So Queen's. It turns out we're gonna have Queen Steve if the game keeps going the way that it is. Steve is afraid of the dark. Ridicule her. That should do it. Possibility of becoming slothful, wroth, or craven. Try to address the cause of the fear. Chance of becoming trusting, diligent, or craven. Let her handle it alone. Chance of becoming craven, diligent, or cynical. Let us address the cause of the fear. Steve has become trusting. This may not be the most beneficial for her in the long run. Let's disband that one. Yeah, so we still have enough. So I just want to make sure. Alright, so I need to... I'm actually going to do more than one war then. So the Duchy of Skane... Oh, damn it. I didn't know these were in a different area. Okay, we're actually gonna hold off on the war then. We'll at least get people, like we'll get people in the territory where we need them, but I'm actually gonna wait for these wars to. Actually, that sounds like a really lame way to do it. Let's declare holy war on these chuckleheads. Obligate the vassal. What I'm trying to do is avoid getting somebody... Aha! We've got a boy. No more queens in this house. I finally have a male heir. Alright, I'm gonna take... I'm really late on my break, so I'm gonna take 3 to 5 minutes to get up, stretch, get a glass of water, and as always, I encourage you guys to do the same. While I am gone, if any of you would like to name my offspring, how should we do it? I think just everybody shout something in chat, and I'll choose randomly, or I'll choose something that makes me laugh, or I'll throw darts at my monitor and immediately regret my decision. We'll come up with some way. We'll come up with some way of handling this. So, with that in mind, I'm off for a couple minutes. See you guys when I get back. Alright, thank you everybody for being so patient with me. Let's see. He who hath no name. I am actually going to go with Endor's suggestion because it's as ridiculous as the previous one. We shall call him Elizabeth. Although I do want to use He Who Hath No Name. That would be pretty good. That'll be a good one to look at in the Chronicle. Okay, so one less faction to deal with. Uh-oh. 1 second. Oh, never mind. It's just the library reminding me that I owe them books. Let's get this guy who doesn't like me to stop doing bad things. I do not have an anti-pope. I guess I'm strong enough to have one, but I haven't felt the need. I had a really nasty bout of heresy, so I'm not particularly looking forward to having to deal with heathens. Let's do wealth. Shouldn't be that hard to get 500 gold. King Elizabeth I, his name will carry on. I also don't have any really good anti-pope candidates right now, but I was kind of wanting to save it up for when I would need, when I was in fear of being excommunicated, but I don't know if that's actually that necessary. It's unplayable with an anti-pope, really? I remember, like, when I was playing a Merchant Republic, I set up an anti-pope, and, like, I was in constant war, and, like, Merchant Republics just aren't really that strong. But, I mean, like, with 35,000 men, I'm actually really interested. I think I should take a look at the other kingdoms and just see who's actually a credible threat. But first, let's do some role-playing. Apparently, one of the courtiers has been annoying my wife, Immergard. And instead of asking me for help, she took matters into her own hands and made sure that the courtier would never annoy her again, or he'd know the consequences. Well, he's got a 100 opinion of me, and she's got a 1 opinion of me. I want more babies. She did the right thing. Everybody will hate me for a minimum of -50. Probably just as well I didn't set up an anti-pope. I think this one, we got, what was it? It was Dragon Blood was the last achievement that we unlocked, and it looks like we're slowly on our way to Divine Blood, so I don't want to start messing too much with... I don't want to be messing too much with my chances of obtaining those sorts of things. Can I appoint any successors yet? Nope. Can't do anything fun. Simon of Moray, Peasant Revolt has declared a peasant revolt for Moray on Emperor Wulfnoth the Wise. Why not? Peasants have risen up with Moray, led by a disgruntled former soldier. The rebels have the nerve to demand independence. 3,000 troops, eh? It would be a shame if something were to happen to them. Really, I should be using vassals for this, but need to make sure my men are in fighting shape. Victories all around. Okay, let's make a new bishop. What else do I want to do? I guess we give it to this guy. county of Rogaland. I guess I can't create the duchy. Who has that duchy? Westlander. Doesn't exist. Oh, it's got 4 components. That's why I can't create it. Alright then, if they want to be killjoys. Are we more pious than the Pope yet? Nope. Oh, wait a minute. 1345 versus... Who cares about the revolution? I want to know if I'm holier than the Pope. 1316. I will hear your confession, MFer. Alright. Let's deal with this rebellion once and for all. Alright, Princess Steve. We don't need to worry about you inheriting the kingdom anymore. But just in case... Now let's do this political, actually. You'll do. It's almost like that battle didn't happen. Looks like we've lost a whole bunch of factions. Let's deal with... Oh, we've already got Spy Master on them. Actually losing a lot more money than I thought I would be on this. I guess I'm not used to having my troops raised. Better go to bed way too late. No, not a problem. I smell like food. It was fun. I mean, it seems like a lot of people got something out of it too. So I'm glad that you asked. And like, I like talking about this stuff, right? But I never can quite tell whether or not this is of interest to people. So I mean, if somebody in the channel is asking me to do a YouTube series on it, that's probably an indication that that was a good topic to discuss. So, it's really great having you in stream as always. Sorry I'm not able to catch your casts, but I do have you on the follow, and with any luck we'll get a chance to see you sooner rather than later. If not, you know where to find me. Have a great night, and I hope you have a good sleep. Okay, so let's assume I'm not going to do anything in Viking land for a while. I'm actually really worried about walking across Europe. We'll go through the Greek... I'm basically just trying to avoid all these revolutions, because if I just walk into the wrong stack, I'm going to lose my retinue again. These revolutions are taking too long to finish. That demand size restriction really hurts me. Okay, gently walk across territories you don't own. Don't piss anybody off yet. Okay, let's see if we get devoured in the teeth of the Aquitanian Revolution. Looks like France is having fun. Ah, man, I'm losing so much money because of attrition. I mean, I have a ways around it, but that's not a way to run a kingdom. And the only possible explanation is because I'm at 10 of 9, but I really don't like... I specifically built the kingdom this... Oh, crap. January 24. Oh, thank God they're gonna miss me. Okay, looks like I just gotta simmer down and wait in my territories, otherwise I'm gonna go bankrupt. Ah, Jesus Christ. Okay, well, with any luck, Aquitaine will actually do something useful this time, but... that's still a lot of troops to lose. Yeah, it's 1,000 troops just for walking in the wrong neighborhood. And looks like there's more. Well, that's what I get for being cheap. It's 3,000 troops lost from that. Oh my God, it's because of the... Ugh, that's so frustrating. I don't even need that territory. I really wish I knew that was why. I mean, if those ships were already up there, I would have been able to walk my retinue over. So much wasted money there. Okay, well, not much to do about it now. Well, 10-year-old, at least you got the... at least you got the guy doing something stupid you were looking for. That is a shame. So what does Osred control? So I need to get him Skane. Don't have a CB for it though. What am I going to do about this? There's no way to withdraw from wars, I guess. Okay, well, you know what? We do the same strategy we did last time. There's nothing else to be... Okay, patience is averse to you, but sometimes it gets on my nerves. My daughter, Synthgeth, never loses her temper, always watching patiently for a chance to retaliate. Good, I cannot abide recklessness. So, we're just gonna sit back, relax. Hopefully we'll have another son so I can give him that Spanish territory. And we're going to amass 500 gold so we get our extra stewardship, which maybe will just push us to our 10 limit anyway. And we are going to wait till we can rebuild our retinue, and then we're going to continue war with Hispania. Ideally what will happen is these revolts will either succeed or fail, but basically we'll no longer be in war, and we will be able to change the succession laws of Sweden, because if this guy dies before that happens, I'm going to be mildly upset. 41 gold a month is not bad at all. So while we're waiting for this to go through, we'll talk a little bit. So the original plan here was to take all of Spain. I don't quite know what I'm going to be able to do with the Teutonic Order. How good is this bishop? 23 versus 22. One likes me 95, the other likes me 89. Yeah, why not? More of that sweet, sweet cultural tech. Speaking of which, nothing to research. Arguably, it would be better for me to use my Spy Master to go looking for such things, but I still have factions to deal with, so... So I'm thinking at least claim, you know, easy holy wars to claim Hispania, assuming I don't wipe out my retinues in stupid long marches. The fact that the Teutonic Order has these and doesn't look like they're giving... It used to look like they were giving up individual provinces at a fairly decent pace. It seems like that isn't happening anymore. So I think the best thing to do is at least take the part of Spain that I can from the Mahometans. And then, as long as Galatia is on its own, I should be able to make a claim on that as well. Can you get a proper crusade against Hispania and take all their stuff in one war? Good question. I think I'd probably need the Pope to do that, but let's see what can happen here. Yeah, don't have a valid CB. I'm suspecting if they're a neighbor, I get the Holy War. Well, no, that can't be true because maybe they count this as a neighbor, I'm not sure. But yeah, so far as I can tell, only the Pope can call a crusade. Maybe if I ask him nicely. What's your piety? 1893? Yeah, okay, I guess you're holy enough. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything fancy I can do. I'm really bad at church stuff. I mean, the other thing is I don't necessarily mind slow integration of Hispania. Like, it's definitely... Like, now that it's an empire... I guess I can be the ruler of two empires, but I'm at this weird place now where I'm going to start having to have kings for vassals. So I just need to find a really good way of balancing those influences. I think I've got a bit of a handle on how I'm going to, you know, handle it in the northern territories. Alright. Let's get her married. German? Sure, they look like they'll last long. Can we do matrilineal? Spania's diplomacy and request... Oh, good call. Request invasion. Okay, the head of a religion has the power to grant special casus belli following the full-scale invasion of a realm. If the attacker wins such a war, all occupied countries and attached vassal baronies will be cleared of their current owners and given to the invader to hand out to his loyal followers. I had no idea this was an option. So we've got religious authority, I'm not at peace, and fewer realm holdings than Emperor Friendando II of Hispania or primary title claim. So apparently, I'm definitely not going to have fewer titles than any of these people. But I need a primary title claim, so I need some claim on the Empire of Hispania. Alright, fair enough. Worth a try for sure. While we're at this, actually, let's just take a look and see how we rank compared to the other empires. So Byzantine, 35,000 troops, so we're about equal in terms of manpower. Hispania is nothing, so let's see what the Abbasid Empire has. 96,000 troops! Okay then. How do I deal with that? I think we invade up to we invade up to here. We make really nice with the Abbasid Empire and wait for them to get involved in a war with somebody else. Now, I think actually, if I think about it, there's probably a way I could handle it. But honestly, I think, you know, when I consider about the designs that I have, so originally I wanted to claim, you know, as much of Spain as I could. It looks like I'm going to have a fairly decent chunk of Sweden sooner rather than later. So I need to remember that's not just going to keep my troop counts static. But thanks for letting me know that, 10-year-old. I didn't actually know you could do that in this game. I always thought Crusades were exogenous. Okay, people dying. Factions disbanding. War is not finishing. And, you know, watching the AI conduct this war is why I'm never really that scared when they when they threaten to invade. That 7,000 troop stack, though. Almost got what we need. Come on, you can do it. 14 more gold. There we go. All right. I really need to use my improve my diplomacy, but well, you know what? Chances. I mean, maybe I'd get my marshal before the end of my life, but let's just go for diplomacy. I don't think I'll worry that much about 100 prestige, whether or not I get it. There's a side of me that just wants to get my full army and just come in and wipe these guys out so I can finally have the succession laws I want. I just know it's going to be so expensive to do, though. I'd rather use that money on hiring another retinue. Now, looks like Hispania's reunited. Oh, that's fair, 10-year-old. I mean, honestly, I'm on autopilot sometimes when I play this game. Like, it's funny that I always say that I'm new to the game, but the way I play it is, you know, it's like I don't know. It's like I think I can't learn anything. So I appreciate it when people point stuff like that out for me, because it's a complex game, and there's definitely features that would make my life easier inside of it. So, an old weather-bitten diplomat who has served in most of the courts in Europe, the ones that mattered at least, agreed to take you under his wing for a few days. He has taught you many valuable tricks on how to deal with vassals and other rulers. Much obliged. 1 diplomacy. Yeah, that was my guess too. Like I definitely on Spain. I was only able to do the ones that shared a border. So I thought it was weird that I was able to declare holy war on here. until I thought that, okay, well, kind of they share a border if you consider the ship distance. So I think you're spot on with that. I'm gonna regret doing this, but let's raise the levies. I'm gonna get them in place first, and I want to make this the shortest boat ride ever. I haven't bankrupted myself yet, so that's a good sign. Walking alone on the battlements late one night, you suddenly see a shining white shape appearing in the sky above you. It seems to be moving towards you, or maybe away. There's a strange sound in the air too, like a whispering. What's going on? The Virgin has appeared to me. I have been blessed. Gain the trait Zealous and 30 Piety. Never hurts to have a little zeal when you're going up against the people with curved swords and bad attitudes. Justice is a harsh mistress, and I can't love her anymore. I am not the law. Emperor loses the trait Just. Something tells me this will be enough troops to handle this revolution. Assuming I don't bankrupt myself by raising the fleet. Three more factions, nice. Two of them get dealt with when my Spymaster finally does his job, and it's the Duke Command? Yeah. Not too worried about it. Okay, you know what? For 1,000 troops, these guys get a... I don't need you. So we need about 240 boats, it looks like. Vassals can cover those. The worst thing about the strategy is I inevitably miss some boats, and they just sit there, losing me money. Okay, I hope that's all the ones that I need. Did I bring enough? No, I didn't. Still not enough. Jesus. Get in the boat. We're still not losing money. That's good. Jesus Christ. Where do I even go with this? Are you kidding me? 2,000 troops. Let's see if I can... Oh, Christ. there was a slightly better way of managing this, but... Okay, hopefully the AI is as dumb as it normally is. Where is this guy going? Okay, not into the jaws of death, that's all I care about. You disembark here, and get those ships out of the water, I don't want to lose money. Alright, this is better be worth it. Well, see, I've been trying to let the rebels win, but it's been going at such a glacial pace that it just seems easier to send 20,000 troops to finish this revolt for them. Yay, more babies! Okay, well, the Aquitanian Civil War is done, so maybe I was a little hasty. Don't think I need these guys anymore. Where are they going? Ulster. I mean, the only reason I'm rushing on this is that this guy was in his 20s when I set in motion the plan to get the Kingdom of Spain. He's approaching his 40s. And I still haven't done it. Okay, cool. So you were right. I should have just waited. If it's so glacial, then take Galatia. Cute. So once I deal with my revolts, I can finally take Sweden. Well, I have Sweden, but ensure it's mine forever. Jesus Christ. Never takes the AI this long to kill my stacks. They usually do that pretty effectively on their own. Okay. Drop everything. Laws. Sweden. Not